What an educational and powerful film. Let's now welcome the mind behind the lens. Moderating this segment is Janelle James, president of the SVG Association of Massachusetts.
Wow, that was an incredible film. Ackley, thank you so much for this moving and powerful film. We just want to ask you, what inspired you to create Crafting Our Indigenous Memory, and what was the starting point for this journey?
Anyagira mutu anabo. Maniga now ya landine.
What an educational and powerful film. Let's now welcome the mind behind the lens. Moderating this segment is Janelle James, President of the SBG Association of Massachusetts.
Wow, that was an incredible film. Ackley, thank you so much for this moving and powerful film. We just want to ask you, what inspired you to create Crafting Our Indigenous Memory, and what was the starting point for this journey?
Good afternoon. Thank you to the organizers for creating this event, and thank you to the participants for showing up. It's great to be a part of this conversation, especially as a as a Vincentian. I know, like, you would understand what I mean, because when you're born on this island, you're born with a sort of ignorance, and what you've just seen is my journey to, I guess, counter that ignorance and then extend it. Use the art form and the tech to share it. I think that is my reason and motive. I'm a young guy from St. Vincent who had a talent, and the talent is to create art. Those of you who live in St. Vincent know that certain aspects of the creative industries is sort of like understood and endorsed by our people, and there are other aspects that are kind of like not as developed. I love images. I love the images of the past. I love what they say to me and how they give me a peek into how things went. And I'm an image creator, so I wanted to know how I could use that to contribute to nation building. I grew up in a time when they used to play a song on the radio, something about we're out to build a new St. Vincent. It's like a song they would teach us when we were like in nursery school, like in preschool or in lower early primary education. And I don't know, even back then it kind of stuck to me, it kind of like rang in my soul. And then I started to understand more about what St. Vincent was. To be 40, how much is that? To be 43 years old, as a country, is kind of like being 43 years old as an individual. You're just figuring yourself out. You might have, managed to amass some things, but you're really just like coming into your prime. And we have to understand that about our nation. And we have to understand that, it hasn't been a lot of time when it comes to like reflecting on identity and having a chance to really think about who we are in order to decide where we're going. And well, I don't know why, but these are the things that I think about. And when I look at my society, I sometimes see little bits and pieces of how I could make that contribution that I want to make. And I feel like I discovered it with art, with storytelling, with filmmaking. I would like to acknowledge that primarily we're all here, all of us. We're in different parts of the world, but we're all here primarily because of storytelling. you know, the
Yes.
brothers and sisters in the Garifuna diaspora, your grandparents told your story. And in that story, you have kept alive, you've passed it on. And that power of storytelling is the testament of how this culture survived. And I feel like I understand that now. And I understand it because I put myself in the way to learn how to tell stories. And in some ways, it has become a sort of like life mission. Um, my films are like activism, and it's
Mm.
activism in this space because we don't have lots of opportunities to even have conversations like these. I'm super grateful for the work of Darky Williams and Miss Zoila Ellis Brown. I'm super grateful. And all of the voices you heard in the film, because these are people who, they're like my elders, like I grew up in this community, and these are the people who explained a lot of this to me when I had questions. And yeah, I applaud the work that they have done. And I want to help to extend it, because Miss Renee Batiste often tells me about and her last name is Batiste. And anybody know, if you have a French last name, then that points directly to your Garifuna origins. And she was one of those first persons who kind of like went to Central America, got wind of this connection, and brought it back to Vincentians. And she would tell me about how people would say, oh, it's Obia, it's black magic, wait, don't leave that. And I'm amazed now, maybe about how much is it? 12 to 10, well, I guess about 10 to 12 years later, since the first conference. Like, I'm amazed at how many Vincentians, show up on Heroes Day. Greg's is often like completely overflow, like packed to the rim.
Love it.
I'm super, like I'm super happy and impressed by everything that has happened over the years. I do think a lot of Vincentians, more so than when I was younger, I do think that they are embracing the stories of the Garifuna and the stories of the indigenous heritage. I do think so, but I know that well, the truth is, like, what our diaspora brothers and sisters see when they come is a sort of like I don't want to call it a performance, but is a well orchestrated series of events, that mark the homecoming of the Garifuna from the diaspora, those from Central America. And that doesn't necessarily like give you the access to what remained here in St. Vincent. Because the truth is I agree 100% that language is the core of a culture, but there are other elements as well. For example, the way how we just cook a boilin is the same how you guys just make a tapado in Honduras. And the problem is, or the challenge is like we have the same ingredients in St. Vincent, but we don't know the recipe because the recipe, well, we didn't have time to practice it because of the colonialism on the ground, like we didn't have time to like, and then even if we did have time, as the country evolved, we started to in a kind of a way aspire towards a different value system, and that value system is that of the colonials. And yeah, I just wanted to like bring all of these things or thoughts I was having and present them in a way so that it could be consumed not only by intellectuals and people, who operate in that realm, which is, in my opinion, a bit exclusive. Even the language is exclusive. Like the regular man in the street ain't gonna know what you're talking about when he read your PhD. So I wanted to like, well, God bless me with intellect and education and whatever. So I wanted to like translate what I found out in these documents, and it's tough papers to read, into a format 30 minutes long that would give you a sort of like in-depth access to your own culture. I think that is what the technology allows. I recognize that about it. I recognize that it's a bit in terms of how to wield it, it's a bit limited in St. Vincent. So yeah, I took the reins and took it on myself to figure it out. And it seems like I was right. Like, it seems like film and tech is the way that we could or one of the ways that we could really expand all of the work that we're doing. Because you heard from John Nero, big up Fuds if you're still here. But you heard from John Nero, who's one of our like pioneers, like he was the first person to explain Greg's to me in a way that I could understand as a Vincentian. You know, we had always I had grown up hearing about, oh, don't pick no fights with no man from Greg's because, you know, all of them go come for you. And yeah, so it's just these bits and pieces of like, if you want to say the memory that could not be suppressed, that still shows up in the everyday Vincentian, but we don't know it because we haven't had the chance to reflect on it. And if anything, I I only see it because I spend a lot of time looking and listening, and then I record it. And I also had the opportunity, thank you to the ancestors, to travel to Central America, to some of these communities that, you know, where the other part, the other half of our identity resides. And yeah, when you get there, you see that they're living at the river mouth, and all of these places look just like Vinci, you know? And that made it even more compelling for me to like believe in these thoughts I had and aspire to, you know, make my contribution to, if you want to say, helping to transform the attitude in St. Vincent by just making the knowledge available and accessible. So that's my motive.
I mean, you just covered so much, but I think most importantly, this film really sort of whet your appetite for curiosity about what our culture, the history of our culture, and how we have so much more to dig into it. I think I saw someone from the group raise their hand. Was it Samantha? Did you have a question? Did I see that correctly?
No, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, no, it wasn't a question. I just wanted to applaud the whole coming together of this event, and yeah, very informative, and yeah, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah, it truly is brilliant. I think you touched on it a little bit before, Ackley, but in what ways do you think art and film can challenge colonial narratives and recenter Indigenous voices?
So the first time I heard about the Black Caribs, it was in The People Who Came by Lennox Honeychurch. I think that was the end of primary school here in St. Vincent. And what I saw was one image of some dark-skinned Indigenous people, you know, based on how they were dressed, and one paragraph explaining who they were. And this was the closest I had been at that time to our history, to my understanding of like myself as a Vincentian. And well, like I say, you know, I've always had a sort of like if you want to say affection or pull towards images. And I went on a sort of a trail, you know, just seeing as much history books that I could find, and just looking at the images, you know, just going through history from the point of view of the image. And little by little, I came to understand for myself that a lot of what we think and what we know here in St. Vincent is informed by these images. Basically, the colonials invented the first version of Instagram. That's who Augusta Bernias was. You know, the colonials would bring would commission these people to come to their villas in the Caribbean to paint the opulence that they had manifested, to go back to England. And in a way I sort of like see that being the origins of tourism, to be honest, right? So I see, yeah, because the Bohemian fantasy was exported by William Young, and then we continue to export that same Bohemian fantasy in St. Vincent to this day, which is our tourism, you know, in my opinion. And yeah, so I definitely see how an image could captivate you and inform your value system going forward into future generations. And Well, I said to myself, well, I make images, and my images are from my perspective. And if somebody else makes an image, it will be completely different from their perspective. And even though they're both true for us, when I look at both of them, I get a clearer picture of the real truth. And the truth is, like, we haven't seen a lot of images of the Kalinago or of the Garifuna, and a lot of it is left to our imagination. And I guess that's where I come in, when it comes to using the tech to translate some of what the archivists and the research and all of these people have sort of like discovered, how to translate that in a language that not only I could be interested in, but ultimately I want to get it in a language that young kids could be interested in. Because I was captivated by the Japanese manga and the Naruto and the Pokemon and all of that as a kid. And I think if we're able to present some of the elements of these stories that are precious to us, to our young minds, in a way that's engaging to them through animation, I think it will have a similar effect as the images of Bruneius had on us. So 200 years from now, they'll have other reference points, not just the ones that the colonials created, but ours. And even though ours would be primarily based on imagination, it will still transmit, and I've even in my interactions with the Garifuna diaspora, I've even like seen some of the aspects of what we have here in Vinci, like having visions and having the spirits reveal things to you. Like that's a thing that exists in our society, but we haven't had like lots of time to like embrace it and practice it. It's more so prevalent in the spiritual Baptist. That's a way too that we can get images to help to like in a kind of way balance what we have in our minds when it comes to our relationships with the colonials. I myself, I'm developing a series of paintings right now where I try to like imagine those moments of victory when Châteauneuf, Duvalier were beating them, when they were taking back the land, those moments that we read about. Like I try to imagine some of those moments and put myself there on the ground to see, like, just to see how people would react and respond to images of our people in positions of power.
Mm,
We have
very
to
good.
confront the victim mentality as well if we really want to heal,
Absolutely. President Weeks? Thank you,
Yes,
Ackley.
so Brother Ackley, there's one for you, and this is from someone in the diaspora. How can we as a global community support the preservation of indigenous memory, not just in words, but in practice?
Well, this film was made in 2021. It's there on YouTube. Nowadays, we have the privilege of analytics and all of that data. So I know who's watching it from where. I intentionally made it available so whoever wants to see it can have access to it, because this is my activism, right? And the truth is, a lot of the interest comes from the diaspora. It does not necessarily come from on the ground in St. Vincent. And yeah, I guess it shows me two things. It shows me, well, one, if it is about like the impact of this kind of work, like you definitely see that the films work. They bring people together. We also see references from other communities across the planet who use film to counter colonial narratives. So definitely, I would say, encourage and support any person that you see as sort of like doing this kind of work. That's one way. But the main way right now, in my opinion, would be supporting the Garifuna Heritage Foundation, because I mean, a lot of the images that you saw there, it was me at their events with my camera, capturing what they were doing. And then the only thing I was able to do is extend the interest beyond the month of March, so that all year round, if you want, you can have access to this work or these stories, or this information. That's the only thing I was able to do. Just give a little glimpse of what could happen if we weren't just Garifuna in March, but Garifuna 365. And there's other things to confront, and yeah, but I definitely think that's what I would say right now. We're in a stage where we need to not necessarily duplicate effort, but sort of like strategize how to use each other's strength to make a big push forward, in my opinion.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Does anyone else from the floor have anything that they'd like to
I
ask?
see Joan trying to ask a question. Miss Joan Hoyt,
Yes.
you're muted. Oh, yeah.
Hi. Hi. Am I allowed to say something?
Of course.
Absolutely.
Hi. So my name is Joan Hoyt, and I'm from Sandy Bay in St. Vincent. I live in Washington, D.C. And I want to really thank Ockley for the film. I've watched it a few times because it's available on YouTube. I think I was able to pull it up there. And I also want to mention that you have a few of my people from above the river in it. The basket maker, the guy from Fancy. So I appreciate the fact that you gave some play to the above the river communities. It's something that in this discussion about Garifuna, I don't hear as often. And I want you all to remember that while half of our brothers and ancestors were shipped to Baliso, and some of them died, and others were taken over to Roritan and Central America, there is still a community above the river. Yes, there's a community in Greg's and Rose Bank and other places, small pockets, but the concentration of indigenous people are still above the river, and we cannot forget that. And so my voice, we have an organization called the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Indigenous People Association that is an umbrella group for 5 organizations or groups that represent people above the river. And this year, we went down and we had what's called a cultural exhibition, and Ackley was there, so thank you for coming. It was the beginning of something that we hope can become a tradition, and we ensure that although it jumpstarts the week of National Heroes Month. So we are hoping to have it the Sunday that precedes the 14th of March on an annual basis. But again, my blood runs the Sandy Bay, whether we call ourselves Caribs or Kalinago, that runs through me because that's all we knew ourselves. And all of you who are from St. Vincent were born there knew that we didn't call ourselves Garifunas, we called ourselves Caribs. Yes, I've heard all the negative things to be said about it. And I know that this forum and this platform is not the place to discuss it. But I just want you to know I'm a proud over the river woman, and I would drop my contact information in the chat. So anyone who wants to reach out to me can do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much,
If
Joan.
I'm just respond to Joan, I definitely agree with you. Again, coming from St. Vincent and the Grenadines or Vincentians, looking out into the world, our initial interaction had to have been with the Kalinago, and any of us can tell you, growing up in St. Vincent, and the references that were made to Carib and Kalinago in our community were not favorable. Like they were never favorable. Up until 2021, I was in Calico at the fish market one evening just before the evacuation, and I heard people making comments similar to comments that I had read about in the 60s, or even in the in Anderson's book about how he described the Caribs. And some real derogatory things up as recent as like 2021, because, during the eruption, everybody from OTR moved down, so it created a kind of like, internal migration. So, people from town and people from further down the island, like, it's crazy. I'm not even going to repeat some of what I heard, because that's not the kind of thing we want to celebrate. But yeah, and Brother Garibali mentioned it. There has to be a sort of like continued investigation, conversations about the differences between us, right? And it's not to point them out, but to understand, well, just in terms of economics, a reference that we know, like a dollar bill usually has two sides, and both sides of that dollar is that dollar. So to extract the value, you have to confront the entire thing. You can't just confront a part of it. And even when you look at the words, like I definitely understand the conversation about Carib as a sort of derogatory word, similar to Negro or the other version of it. I definitely understand how that came to be. But I also understand that in the context of St. Vincent, it's been a journey for Carib to really self-actualize and accept itself. So just like the brothers and sisters in North America who say, my nigga, right? And we have reclaimed that word, and that word doesn't hurt me anymore because I'm really saying my friend, my very good friend. I think a similar thing has happened with the word Carib in right now. It's happening right now, and I definitely understand and encourage that. But when you look at the word Garifuna, or Garinagu, when you look at that word and you break it down into its syllables, right, in English, and you look at the word Kalinago, Garinagu, Kalinago. I mean, I don't even have to like explain it to you. There is just a letter difference, a letter change, right? And me as a Vinci, I see that as complete evidence that it just means that somewhere along the line, these two peoples who were separated, and we know why they were separated. They were separated to take the land. But these two people, which is really one people, were separated, and they had different versions of the story to go on. And that's what we kept alive. The version in St. Vincent and the version in the diaspora. And if anything, I might even go as far as to say, like, in a way, I see Garifuna, and please don't come for me. And if you do, that we come talking. But I see Garifuna as a sort of diasporic word for the Kalinago. So if I'm a Kalinago and I hear Garifuna, it's like me hearing Caribbean American, as a or Vincentian American. If you understand what I'm saying, like to me, I feel like Garifuna means Kalinago from the diaspora, or Kalinago that went through an exile. I feel like that's what I'm kind of like trying to come to an understanding of. And it could be interesting if we could talk about that and create opportunities to like explore that and really like come to a kind of like harmonious agreement, so that we could stop have these, if you want to say, just sort of like friction, between the group that was here and the group that was exiled. And really we're playing into our victimhood. And that is what sort of keeps us divided, because what we need is these kinds of confrontations, and to claim our power and to claim our pride, right? But in a holistic way. The other thing that is really unfolding in my life right now is well, there's this guy called Blumenbach, and Blumenbach is an old German anthropologist, and this guy Blumenbach, he sort of like is credited for the classification of human species back in the 1700s, right? Or early 1800s. And within his process of classification, like how he went about doing it, he had British sailors collect skulls, like craniums, from different ethnic groups across the planet. One of those craniums was a Carib chief, right? And within that conversation, which is the conversation that was the basis for racist theory, there is a Carib skull within that conversation, right? So now we have two two instances of racism being defined within this community or within the ancestors of this community. One, when they separated the group, the 100 and like I imagine the population back then when the British came in 1763, I imagine the population was similar to what it is now, like 80,000 to 100,000. Look at what racism is doing to the world, and just imagine that. Look at what racism is doing to the world, and just imagine that 200 years ago we had our encounter with it at its origin. So we have a lot to heal from.
Absolutely.
Can I just quickly piggyback on that? So I
have to wrap up, so we have to keep it very short.
Yes, please. I was just speaking to this guy, Crispin Gregory. He used to be the Dominican ambassador to the United Nations, and now he works with the indigenous wing of and he's at a conference at the UN right now. Now, Dominica and St. Vincent were two of the countries with Caribs or Kalinagos. And I wanted to find out from him, what do you call Dominicans who are mixed with Kalinago and blacks? And he said they're all Kalinagos, some of them because Caribs or Kalinagos were treated the same under colonial powers as they treated in St. Vincent. There are Dominicans who have black and Carib mixture, but they identify themselves solely as black, because to have Carib was seen as being, but now they're coming around and they all are identifying themselves, especially in the Kalinago territory, as just Kalinago. So I said, aren't there any Garifunas there? Because if the mixture is blacks and Kalinago, blacks and Caribs, aren't there any Garifuna? He said, no, absolutely not. So it's unique to St. Vincent, the Garifuna distinction. I just want to put that out there so we understand where we are. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Akli, thank you again for this amazing film. I think we need to have another conversation at some point that we can jump into deep discussions and where we're not under such serious time constraints. I think this is just the beginning of our conversation. So I think I'll throw it back to Marion, who will wrap us up.
Thank you, and thank you, Akli, for this good discussion that you had with Janelle, and especially with those who also asked questions. To close this incredible gathering, we hear final reflections from Nicole John, the president of the SBG Association of Montreal. And to all of you, what an amazing audience you've been. It was an honor to host today's inspiring celebration. A huge thank you to the presidents for their vision and leadership in keeping Garifuna culture alive. Let's give them a virtual round of applause. Yes, feel free to turn your cameras on and clap. Thanks to Concardi Radio and Bay Hill News Network for carrying our program live on their platforms. We appreciate you. President John, over to you.
Thank you, Marion. Good evening, everyone. Master of Ceremonies, our colleagues from the SBG Association of Ottawa, UK, Montreal, Massachusetts, Ambassador of St. Vincent and the Grenadines to the US, Permanent Representative to the Organization of American States and High Commissioner to Canada, Her Excellency Ms. Luann Gilchrist, our distinguished guests, representatives from different institutions, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your unwavering commitment to preserving and celebrating our Garifuna heritage. Together, we can continue to honor our ancestors and inspire future generations. I would like to thank our planning committee, of whom I had the opportunity to work with. Ms. Suzanne Smallweeks, Chair, thank you for your vision, thus bringing this event to fruition, and our moderators. Ms. Marion Duncan, Master ceremonies, your warm and engaging presence set the tone for the evening and kept us connected throughout. Miss Marion Glasgow, Acting Chair, National Council UK, and moderator, question and answers. Your thoughtful facilitation ensure our discussions were insightful and inclusive. Evangelist Samuel, your spiritual guidance and uplifting words inspires us all. Ambassador of St. Vincent and the Grenadines to the U.S., your support and participation highlights the importance of cultural diplomacy. Mr. John Miro, your contribution to Garifuna dialogue enriched our understanding and appreciation of our shared history. Ms. Audrey Perez, your leadership at the Garifuna Cultural Center continues to be a beacon for our community. Mr. Trevor, as President of the International Garifuna Council, your advocacy for our culture is invaluable. Filmmaker, Mr. Alton, your screening of Haruna, Land of the Blessed, brought our ancestral journey to the screen, reminding us of our roots and resilience. The Hub, Colin Peters, and Jessica Ajaja, thank you for your presentation and dedication. Our technical team, Noel, Bay Hill News Network, and Karachi Radio, thank you for your continued support and always being there. Kenesha Miller, thank you for that beautiful poem. All organizers and volunteers, your behind-the-scenes effort ensure everything ran smoothly and with heart. Thank you to everyone for your unwavering commitment for preserving and celebrating our Garifuna heritage. Together, we continue to honor our ancestors and inspire future generations. Have a pleasant evening.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Again, we cannot stress how much we appreciate you having you. As we said, this is just the beginning of what to come. We do have this is a flick series. This is the first part of a flick series, as you see in our jingle that was audio. If there are storytellers on here, if there are artists, if there are kids artists, anybody, comedian, this is where we are going to use this platform. It's for you. Come here and we have a conversation with our elders, a conversation with our kids. And from all of us here on the SVG Association, Ottawa, Massachusetts, Montreal, and the UK, we want to say to everyone again, let's keep this going. Go out there, get acquainted with any Garifuna culture that you do. Let's continue this work. Actually, it's always amazing. To my fellow Garifuna brothers and sisters, it was an amazing reflection on all of us. Thank you.
Ayo.
Ayo, ayo, bravo.
All right.
Funata aruba hawa ho amuye Gaba funasa adugira hawa ho amuye Gaba funasa agano agari funanuma amuye.
You sing it in English now, so that we know what we're singing is.
Who will speak Garifuna with me tomorrow?
Oh, okay.
Who will carry on the values with me tomorrow?
Okay.
Who will honor my life tomorrow?
Hey.
Because the way a different way of doing things is one generation lives based on what the past generation taught them in preparation for the next generation. That's what it means to be Garifuna. Yeah.
Okay.
So who's gonna speak the language later? Who's gonna cook food later? Who's gonna lay some food down and some water down to honor my memory later. And that's our brother Andy Palacio. And the name of the song is I'm on your good, which means in times to come.
What is it? Annie, what?
I'm on your good. We're going to type it in for you guys.
Yeah, please.
I'm with the yeah.
I'm looking for it on YouTube as well. AM.
Yeah, AM, U, Enya, yeah, G. There it is right there for you. I'm on your G. And just like the song Landini is speaking to some true pain and whatnot. But anyway, that's that song. I'm on your, and the answer to that question when Andy and them wrote it years ago was Oakley, Marion, Janelle. You are the guys. You're the ones who's going to carry it on. We are the ones. Let's say it like that.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you.
Blessed evening, everyone.
Yeah, take care, everybody. Have a blessed week to come. Thanks. Bye.
Buddy.